Before we get into this special weekend edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. Glad to have you. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with us on this weekend. A little bit later in the show, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett joins us. We're going to talk about the budget that the General Assembly just recently passed in over to the governor. Governor Henry McMaster signed it this week with minimal vetoes. He vetoed only about $10,000 from the budget, which is highly unusual. We'll talk with the Lieutenant Governor on those vetoes. Also, Matt Wills, Vice President of Government Affairs with the Greenville Chamber, will join us to talk with us about some of the issues that the Chamber is continuing to watch as we now start preparing for next year's session. The legislature just wrapped up back in May, but the Chamber and a lot of people are ready to go back to work to continue, particularly on tort reform. We've talked a lot about tort reform this past year. The bars and restaurants were able to get some relief in this last session, but a lot of work to do there. Matt Wills will join us, and we'll talk more about the Chamber and the process that they go through in this off-season, if you will, when the legislature is not in session, preparing for next year's session. Over the past few weeks, I've had several different guests on to talk about their local farmers markets. And today I want to spend a little time on talking about other markets in the Upstate because there are many. I had no idea just how many there are until I did a quick search recently, and I was surprised with the results, although I probably shouldn't be. Farmers markets have become very popular. Now, I know some folks might think, okay, well, farmers markets, they're just a trendy weekend stop. Maybe a few tables of vegetables and a guy playing a banjo, whatever. But what if I told you that these markets are actually a cornerstone of American agriculture and small-town life? Let's rewind the clock a bit and look at historically the role that farmers markets have played. They've been around since the colonial times, before grocery stores, before we had delivery apps, before Amazon especially could bring you bananas at midnight. The farmers markets was where you went. It was a family thing. The whole family would go to the market. It wasn't just a place to buy food either. It was the community center, the bulletin board, the original social network, if you will. In fact, one of the earliest recorded markets in America dates back to 1634 in Boston. Markets were places where farmers could meet the townspeople face to face. There was no middleman, no wholesaler, no bureaucracy, just hard work, a handshake, and the freshest produce that you could ask for. And you knew where your products were coming from. You knew that they were being grown right there in your community. Fast forward to today, and guess what? That tradition is still alive, and alive and well right here in the Upstate. These markets, they're not just good for consumers. They're who are looking for peaches or tomatoes or whatever, and wanting to make sure that they were picked green and that they were local rather than maybe picked in California and shipped over here. These are vital. These markets are vital for the survival of small family-run farms, the kind of folks who work sun up to sundown and still make time for church on Sunday. They don't have million-dollar distribution networks. They have pickup trucks and a table under a tent. So when you buy from a farmer's market, you're putting money directly into the hands of your local growers, people you know, your neighbors. You're helping a family stay on their land. You're saying yes to real food and no to corporate control over our total food supply. Now, there's always obviously going to be a place for our friends like Ingles Markets who are there to serve you. But farmers markets, they can specialize in some of the things. And again, they're closer to your homes quite often. And they just play a special role for those small farmers, and we need to continue to support those farmers. Now, if that's not worth celebrating, I don't know what is. Celebrating farmers, our local farmers. So today, I want to take you on a little tour around our corner of the world and tell you where you can go this week to support these markets, where to go to get some of the best local tomatoes, strawberries, and yes, fresh-baked pies that'll knock your socks off. Let's start with the backbone of the Upstate, and that's the big one, Greenville State Farmers Market on Rutherford Road. It's been there for as long as I can remember. This is the big one, open 6 days a week. You don't have to wait till Saturday or go there on a Wednesday or a Thursday or whatever the day is. They're there Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p. year-round. This is not a seasonal thing. This market is packed with local produce, plants, handcrafted goods. You'll find folks selling everything from collards to cucumbers. And you're going to like some of the good deals you're going to get there, too. Another big one in the area, and this is a new one, but one that has caught on quickly over the years, probably been here a decade or more now, and that's the TD Saturday Market in downtown Greenville on Main Street and Mackbee Avenue. It's every Saturday, May through October, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. There are typically 75 vendors or so. They often have live music, maybe chef demos. It's like Main Street turns into a food festival every Saturday. It's a great place to bring the kids, meet the community, and just a lot of fun there. And we're seeing these types of markets pop up in some of the smaller cities and towns around the area, too. A few weeks ago, I had someone on from the Travers Rest Farmers Market. That has just really become very popular. It's one of the largest nonprofit farmer markets in the entire state. You've got a lot of crafts and activities for kids, fresh mountain-grown produce, and what's not to love about Travers Rest? You got the Swamp Rabbit Trail there. So that has become a very popular one. And then just a couple weeks ago, I had someone on from Hub City Farmers Market in Spartanburg. That has become very popular in Spartanburg. It's the longest running market in the Upstate. And here's the thing. They accept SNAP and even offer double SNAP benefits so more families can afford the good food stuff. They're really into making sure that low-income families and areas of Spartanburg are served by that market. They even have their own gardens there, urban gardens. So you can go by Hub City in Spartanburg. Greer Farmers Market, that's one of my favorites. Of course, my hometown of Greer. It's at the Greer City Park there at City Hall. It's on Sundays, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., May through August. They have bakers and veggie growers. They even do fun-themed events that change weekly. You can bring your dog. It's on that big grassy area. So the Greer Farmers Market is certainly one to keep in mind as well. Simpsonville has a great one. Simpsonville's is Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., May through September. Like a lot of them, you'll find fresh produce, local honey, bath products, and even locally roasted coffee. It's just a great market. Fountain Inn also has one just down the road from Simpsonville. It's at 110 Depot Street in Fountain Inn. It's Saturdays as well, 8 a.m. to 12 p. as well. Typically, they'll have 40 vendors or so. And around Christmas, they switch to a Merry Market with holiday goods and crafts. And then one of the newer ones, Bridgeway Farmers Market in Malden. Thursdays, 4 p. to 8 p.m., May through October. This is a weeknight market. It's kind of rare, but this one is a gem. Great food, live music, hands-on activities. Just think of it as Thursday night, date night, with a side of farm fresh goodness. And others, too. Slater Marietta Farmers Market up in the Marietta area. The Toasty Farmer, which is a winter market. It's November through April. On Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So, folks, the beauty of these markets is that they're real. You can talk to someone. You can actually talk to the person who grew the produce. You can ask them what pesticides they use or don't use. You can trust that the food that you're putting on your family's table is safe. And let's not forget, farmers markets are also insurance against global food chaos. When you know your local farmer, you don't panic over supply chains or what the UN is saying about food shortages. So, this weekend, take the kids, find one close to you. It's good for your health. It's good for your neighbors, your farmers. You support them. And it's just going to be a fun time to visit your local farmers market. And, of course, when you can't find what you need at a farmers market, you can always depend on our friends at Ingles Markets. And boy, Ingles Markets, they're my favorite when I can't go someplace else. And look, Ingles markets, they support local farmers too. They buy a lot of their products. They sell a lot of products that are locally grown and raised here in the upstate of South Carolina, western North Carolina. The bakery at Ingles is just amazing. Have you been there lately? They have store-made cakes and cookies, donuts, muffins, their world-famous apple fritters. You can't beat those apple fritters. They make them fresh every day. Great selection of organic breads and magnificent artesian breads and old world varieties. Some stores have a great gluten-free bakery items that they offer, and their mouth-watering seasonal fruit pies. And boy, we're in the time of the year for those seasonal fruit pies. And I'm so proud of Ingles because they were recently recognized and given an award. They took home the Telly Award, the Gold Telly in the Business to Consumer Broadcast Ad category in the record-breaking 46th Annual Telly Awards. And they won this on their advertisement, Ingles Thanksgiving 2024. This ad featured a big band music track, a dynamic variety of visuals, and a big congratulations to my friend Melissa Level, Ingles Market Director of Advertising, as she served as Creative Director on the project. So congrats to our friends at Ingles for this much-deserved reward. Ingles, low prices, love the savings. Joey Hudson here. America is facing a health crisis, and the answer isn't more meds. I lost over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan without Ozempic or any weight loss shots. Don't settle for a lifetime of medication. GLP-1 injections like Ozempic help some people lose weight, but they come with side effects, high cost, and most gain it back when they stop. At PhD Weight Loss, we reveal Big Pharma's big secret. Your body already makes GLP-1, the appetite-fighting hormone. Our program helps your body make it naturally so you'll drop the pounds faster. With the PhD method, no side effects, no long-term risk, no rebound weight gain, just natural, lasting results, all without hunger or cravings. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. Discover your body's true potential without a shot. It's free and gives you the keys to your personalized plan. Do like I did and don't trade your health for a quick fix. Call now at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com. Joining me on the guest line, Matt Wills, Vice President of Government Affairs for the Greenville Chamber. Matt, welcome. How are you, sir?
Doing well, sir. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure. So you've had a few weeks to decompress, but I know work doesn't stop. So let's start with the budget. It's final now. Government Master this week made just a few vetoes. I believe the amount was about $10,000 or so, which is nothing in a $14-plus billion budget. I don't believe the legislature will go back to Columbia to even consider these vetoes, right?
We have not heard very much about the appetite for wanting to go back and address these vetoes. So they just may be the policy of the day.
Yep. This has to be a record. Do you remember such few vetoes? I spoke with Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett yesterday, and she attributes this to the communication between the governor's office and the General Assembly. Do you agree?
I would echo the Lieutenant Governor's sentiments 100%. I think this is the first time in the time frame that I've been doing some work in the State House here in South Carolina that I think the legislature and the governor have been, on the same drumbeat from the beginning and really doing things that affect South Carolinians in a positive way and getting things done in a manner of which they can agree on and having those conversations ahead of, hey, we're sending you something, look at it, tell us what you like about it or don't like about it. Let's work together to get something initially so we don't have to come back and waste taxpayer dollars to come back and address vetoes and all that good stuff.
Sure. And I got to believe it helped, Matt, and with me today, Matt Wills with the Greenville Chamber. It had to help by the fact that there were no earmarks this year because in previous years, a lot of the vetoes dealt with earmarks.
It has, and if you were to ever go back and look at some of the veto messages that the governor has, was just very broad language that was sent to him from the legislature. And there's no specificity in this, there's no accountability in this. This is just dollars that we're sending, or that the legislature or some members wanted to send back to certain projects. Now, some of those projects may be very worthwhile projects. The governor just wanted some more specificity, and I think this time around, looking at that and saying, hey, there's none of that in this, kind of says that I think it probably points us in a North Star direction of kind of where we're headed at least short term, with the attitude of this legislature.
I mean, do you think that it's possible that maybe legislators realize, well, we survived a year without earmarks, so maybe we can survive another year and just eliminate earmarks altogether?
I think it's always going to be subject to, the attitude of leadership, especially on the House side where appropriation begins. But I think that with what we've seen over the last year, and then as we go into this upcoming year, I think it might be something that we get used to in South Carolina, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yep. Matt Wills, our guest today. Matt, there are a lot of moving parts in the nation's capital these days. Of course, there's this disturbing rift between President Donald Trump, Elon Musk. There's still uncertainty about tariffs. The drama in Washington was cited as the reason that Envision Automotive Energy Supply has decided to pause construction on their new manufacturing plant in the PD. This project was announced with a lot of fanfare just a couple of years ago, promising about 1,600 jobs for South Carolinians. Is this concerning to you? I mean, do you believe that this is really just a pause after spending over $1 billion on the plant?
I think it probably is just a pause. I think in reading their statement, it just citing uncertainty. That's what we're hearing across the board from our investor group with the chamber, our member group. Is just, hey, what's going on? What is happening? Tell us some more about what's going on. And it's a perfect segue into kind of what we're doing as a chamber, in kind of not only having the conversations with our federal delegation with Senator Tim Scott, Senator Graham, Representative Timmons, Representative Biggs, and Representative Norman, for that matter. I think, but it goes one step further in some of our programming that we're excited about. This summer is our DC trip. We're efforting and we're hoping to confirm Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, to address our group in DC in July. And looking very, very much forward to having that conversation and continuing the conversation that Senator Scott had with us about a month ago or Senator Scott's team had with us on a call that we produced for our chamber and investor group. But I think the other aspect of this really, really comes to head is no matter how much you talk about tariffs and trade policy, the proof is really in the pudding. And I think what's coming of this, it really is more discussion. And I think the more folks come to the plate, the more countries come to the plate and start having the discussions with our country, I think that really becomes a positive point. What comes of it in the short term is a little bit of uncertainty that we just don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's just what it is. Unfortunately.
Do you believe that maybe Envision and potentially other companies, I mean, we kind of saw this rush to EVs during the Biden administration with their mandate. I think it was like a 10-year period that President Biden wanted people to go to electric vehicles. I'm not sure the market was really ready for that. Now that the mandate appears to be going away, do you believe that maybe there could be a correction here, and maybe there's not going to be as big a demand for batteries as was thought 2 years ago?
No, I think there's probably going to continue to be a demand for the batteries. Maybe not in the shorter term that we saw through the policy of the Biden administration, but also, we know what's coming in the future. We know that traditional forms of propulsion for our vehicles and other means of transportation are going to have to be broadened. And I think that's one of the pieces of this that I think the Biden administration was going towards, but restricting it to no more internal combustion, electric only. Well, our grid just can't support that. We just had an epic debate in South Carolina about new energy production, and it took a long time to get us to where we are, and we're still not done talking about it. And I don't think we're going to be done talking about it for quite some time because it always is evolving. So, again, I think the head is in the right place or the heart's in the right place. Just the policy of getting there hasn't been hammered out and perfected yet.
Yeah. Matt Wills, Vice President of Government Affairs for the Greenville Chamber, joining us today. Speaking of energy, there appears to be some promising news on the VC Summer project. It looks like that maybe that's going to be resurrected and could potentially find someone to complete that so that it can do what we had wanted it to do from the beginning.
Well, when we've got 3 cooling towers that are potentially available for energy production, clean energy production, I think, and we're using one of those towers to produce at this point.
Yes.
I think that when we've got the opportunity to increase that, we have a friendly administration to be able to start pushing some of those nuclear permits through the Department of Energy. I think, and the folks that want to put money into it because they see the benefits to it long term. I think that's a very positive thing, and just the anecdotal stuff that we're hearing about, the interest in getting those fired back up. I'm very optimistic that we can get this done, hopefully in a shorter time frame than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah. Now let's go back. You mentioned a minute ago the Chamber's trip to Washington this summer. Tell me more about that.
Sure. So we're going to be in Washington July 22nd through the 24th. Sorry. We're doing our trip this year in conjunction with the Charleston Metro Chamber. And what we're trying to do is really broaden the scope of what we've seen in the past from our trips. And that's kind of the coordination that we're working on. But I think the really exciting part is to really partner with our Metro Chamber coalition partners to just talk about the things that really are hitting home right now. And that's obviously the trade pieces and obviously the transportation side. Folks got to get to work. Folks got to get to work safely. Kids got to get to school. And we're going to have those conversations. We're going to have high-level administration folks from the Department of Transportation. And again, we're very close to announcing Secretary Besant joining us on our trip as well.
Wow, that's exciting, and that will be a fun trip. How many folks will you have in the delegation going up?
Yep. So from the Greenville area, from the Upstate area, we'll have anywhere from 20 to 25. Charleston will have about 30, 35. So we'll have a strong group of folks participating, and we look forward to being able to confirm and announce a finalized agenda here in the next couple of weeks. Sure.
Now, we know you guys, we know what you do during the session. You and I, we'd catch up weekly, and it's long days, lots of activity. But now that you're not at the state capitol on a daily basis, what does your typical day look like in preparing for next year's session?
Yeah, so once May kind of, subsides a little bit, I can, kind of have an opportunity to kind of reflect back on what happened from, the first part of the year through May. My focus really shifts to our chamber programming, to making sure that we're putting out the information that we need to put out about local legislation, local legislative things happening, not whether it be on city council in Greenville or county council in Greenville as well. But I want to make sure that our Upstate Chamber Coalition partners are heard as well. So what we're going to end up doing, or what we'll end up doing this year a little bit earlier than we do, is kind of start focusing in on what happens in January. What do we need to focus on in January? We put together not a poll, but it's send it out to our investor groups and just have them tell us what they're tracking, what they want to hear about on the advocacy front. And so we've kind of perfect that, and we work through that, the first part of the year, in the first part of the term, in the House cycle. So every 2 years, we kind of go through a House cycle in the legislature. And so this year we're going to have to update that because we got some of our agenda items passed. Not everything got passed. So there's a lot of work still left on what we've got for 2025. But when we look at 2026, we start trying to perfect what we want to get done before that legislative term ends. So we'll start doing a lot of focus work on that. And then obviously our programming with our State of Greenville event in August, and then our legislative breakfast in December. So we kind of stack priorities on top of each other, as our CEO loves to talk about, and building those successes on top of themselves. So
sure.
I'm excited about this year. This July will mark my first full year with the chamber, and I hope to be able to report at the August meeting of our board to be able to say, look, this is what we've been able to do in the last year. Look forward to continuing to do that and building those successes on top of themselves.
Sure. Well, as you know, probably the biggest issue that you and I talked about during the session was tort reform. We got some movement on that, but everyone was in agreement that there's more work to be done. Probably a lot more work to be done. Hopefully we got some relief for the restaurant and bar folks, but talk with us about what conversations are ongoing now to try to go back to Columbia in January and finish the job.
Yep. So I think the two biggest pieces of the pie that need to get worked through on the tort side, on the lawsuit reform side, are the statute of repose on new construction, home building, and stuff like that. And then the other aspect of it is medical malpractice. We've got some fantastic medical providers and hospital systems in South Carolina, more that are coming to the state because of our growing population. And I think those two things specifically we really need to get addressed early on. I think there is some appetite about trying to get those things done. Those are the discussions that we're beginning to have for January. And I think some of the other pieces that kind of fall into that pie is things that got left out on the liquor liability side, which came from the House proposal, was DUI reform. Obviously, not necessarily a business community issue, but it is a community issue. And we are not only a business forum, but we are a community forum. And I think looking out for our communities certainly falls into our purview as far as advocacy is concerned. And we will certainly be supportive of future DUI reform in the state.
Sure. Matt Wills, always a pleasure. Appreciate what you guys do, and we'll catch up again with you sometime later in the summer.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Anytime I can be on, I'll certainly make it work.
Sure thing. Joining us on our guest line, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, my friend. I hope you are. If you're having a good week. A
great week, and looking forward to heading into the weekend. So, although I hear that we may have some rain, but hey, look, a weekend is good regardless. I'd rather for it to be sunny, but if it's going to rain, that's okay. I'll read a book or something.
Well, Joe, you know what'll happen? I'll think, my gosh, we are going to be in such a good spot this summer, and by July 5th, we'll be hearing that we're in a drought situation.
Yep.
So I guess we should let's get it now. So as the summer kicks in, our lakes and our rivers are full and moving, so we can all enjoy them.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So, big week. Governor McMaster only vetoed about $10,000, I think I remember reading, which is probably the lowest amount of vetoes in a long, long time, if not in history. Looks like the governor must have approved of the budget that the General Assembly sent over to him.
What's really nice, and obviously I was new to politics. I only have served in the administration with the governor, him and I together. And what I see that maybe everybody doesn't see is that we try to sit down and work with the General Assembly so that we're not fighting each other, right? Because if we want to get done for the people of South Carolina, we can't continuously fight with each other. We have to work together to make good things happen. I think that's what you see in this budget. Governor and I received 80% of what we wanted and from our executive budget, which means that we froze tuition for our colleges for in-state students. We put a school resource officer. Now we have the funding to be in every school in South Carolina. That makes me very happy. That was a campaign promise made, and we can check that box. We did another tax cut. We put more money in for roads and bridges. We made sure our WINS program through our technical college system will stay strong. This has been a huge workforce development project that the governor and I have been supporting since we put it in play a few short years ago. And so we're very happy with what happened. So now it's going to be a little bit of rest, pre-filing bills. We'll start to see what everybody is excited about for the next legislative season already.
Yeah. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette with me today. Yeah, so, and I guess probably one of the reasons that there were not a lot of vetoes, too, was the legislature did not have any earmarks in the budget this year.
Exactly. Governor McMaster and I have always said, be transparent, let the people of South Carolina see what you want to spend money on. If it's something that you feel that strongly about, then make sure you make your case to the public. And that's where the biggest number of vetoes have come over the years from the governors, when he found there were things, dollars hidden somewhere that he didn't think was fair to the taxpayer, and that's what he would veto. But you're right, this year, no earmarks. So there wasn't a lot to fine-tooth comb through and say, hey, who asked for this? Why did they want it? And will it do good? Will it help the greater good? I always think when I'm at Rotaries and I'm speaking at Rotaries and they do the three-way test,
yep.
I'm like, that is such a great test for everything we do, Joey. Like, just for every bill we pass, is it good? Does it help everyone? It's like, if we went through that easy three-point question, I think the taxpayers would be very happy with all of us.
Yep. So do you think that this could be the end of earmarks? I mean, didn't do them this year. Everybody seemed to survive so far. Do you think there's a chance that that might just become a common practice?
I would hope so. The governor suggested for the last few years that we create a fund that we knew exactly how much, because there are always, all of your House reps, the Greenville delegation,
yep.
Spartanburg delegation, like all these delegations come down and they're trying to do things that are impactful in their community. And of course, those are labeled as earmarks, right?
Right.
So, the governor said you're always going to have those projects that constituents are going to want all across the state. To make it an even playing field, why not, in the budget, come up with a certain dollar amount that goes into a fund, just like if you're applying for a grant, right? Make your case, state your case, put it out there, and see if it wins. And then that way, all of our areas don't feel like somehow they're being forgotten in what's happening in the general budget. And we've always thought if we're going to go back to saying, well, hey, there are certain things that communities need, I think this is a really good way to do it. And I hope the taxpayers would think that too, because then we know exactly what we're spending. We can budget for it. And then everybody makes their best case, and we pick the best projects.
Yep. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette is with me today. All right. So, one of the things I hear a lot is that Governor McMaster does not deputize local law enforcement to help out with the fight on illegal immigration. Well, we certainly saw how state law enforcement, local law enforcement, federal law enforcement can work together in South Carolina with a huge bust in the Lowcountry, over 80 arrests of illegals, some really bad people. What's your response when people are critical of how we handle that?
Joey, I hear that all the time. And unfortunately, we saw this starting with COVID, right? Everybody looks at what other states are doing and go, okay, why aren't we mirroring that? And I asked Chief Keel that question because I was getting it a lot. Like, does the governor need to deputize? He's like, absolutely not. That's not the way it works here in South Carolina. Every sheriff has the power to work with SLED, to work with ICE, to do these busts. We are very fortunate in South Carolina. We have no sanctuary cities. I don't know one sheriff or one chief of police that isn't ready and willing, with the amazing officers that they have under their command, to not work hand in hand with ICE. Chief Keel told me that even during the dismal times, Joe, of the Biden administration, when he really tamped down and put handcuffs on ICE and not let them do their job, we were still standing and ready and waiting. I talked to Chief Ritchie. That was an amazing. Not only did we put a lot of bad actors away, we put one international criminal. We apprehended them. We saved a bunch of people that were looped in to the human trafficking. This is such a horrible thing, Joey. Like, human trafficking, these are victims, right? Yeah. These aren't willing participants, and that's what President Trump saw when he was talking about closing down the border. Is these poor people that get sucked into this loop of human trafficking. They get, basically under the control of cartel, and then their lives are just devastated. And so we apprehended the cartel. We took people and saved them from this horrible human trafficking, where they're now getting help and assistance. And this is a huge win for South Carolina, and we're seeing that happen all over the country. I'm very proud of our law enforcement, and just that they stand ready and eager and willing to help with anything that they're called upon.
Yep. Well, it was certainly a good day for South Carolina and the entire country, for that matter, with taking those bad guys off the streets and sending them back to wherever their home is. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott, always a pleasure. Have a safe one, and we'll catch up again next week.
Thank you. You guys stay safe. Try to stay dry. I'm going to pray that we have a little less rain so we can get some good BMW golf in.
Sounds like a plan. That's it for this special weekend edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.